slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't.
Hey everybody, today's topic is really important. Mental resilience, okay? The secret weapon for breaking your marathon personal best. I believe that mental resilience is absolutely essential if you truly want to take your racing and training to the next level. Because again, if you don't have a high level of motivation and drive and discipline to be willing to put in the work for several months, and if you really want to do it right, you're going to have to expect to do this for several years in order to get into that flow state where every single thing goes perfect, where it's very, very difficult to duplicate what you're aiming for. In a lot of cases, we have to train for decades and several years to get to a point where we're in that flow state where we produce a performance that we may never achieve again. For me, it was back in 2007 when I set my personal best in the marathon. It took me another decade. I trained another decade to improve upon my personal best for the marathon and never got close to it. Actually, I was about 6.5 minutes slower even after 10 years of training, okay? But it's still, mental resilience absolutely will take you to the next level in your racing. You have to have that grit and that discipline and motivation to be willing to do something that maybe you currently don't believe you can do, okay? You have to have that long-term vision. And so I think that a lot of athletes compare themselves to other athletes. I think that you shouldn't do that, okay? You got to minimize the amount of stress you're placing on yourself. Do the very best that you can in terms of your preparation, and don't compare yourself to other runners or worry about who's in the race. I mean, it's important to keep those things in mind in terms of just having an idea of who's showing up to the race. But I think it's also very important that if you're lacking talent, okay, this is my personal viewpoint on this, and I think it's so important. If you're lacking talent, you're going to have to make up for that lack of talent with your work ethic. Work ethic can go a long way. And mental resilience, how well you prepare, how well you get over setbacks, how well you deal with those times where you're seriously doubting what you're doing. You're really questioning yourself. It's that persistence. I can promise you, I've dealt with it myself over the years, dealing with poor workouts, dealing with poor races. And sometimes it's really about thinking, like I always talk about in other videos, it's thinking outside the box. If I'm having a problem with being fatigued, am I running too much of my mileage too fast throughout the week? Or maybe am I running too much volume when really I could get better results by maybe working on 50% less volume? Is it something physiological that's going wrong? Am I running low on ferritin? Okay, I've talked about ferritin and the importance of making sure that you are keeping your iron levels at optimal levels. Okay, now back in 2007, I was diagnosed with borderline anemia. Okay, my ferritin levels were down at 21. If you are below 30 nanograms per milliliter in ferritin, it doesn't matter how much motivation you have. You can have a high mental resilience, but your body's ability to, in terms of your cellular health and your cell's ability to carry oxygen throughout the body as you're running at submaximal and maximal efforts, is diminished tremendously. Okay, so you want to make sure that your ferritin levels are at optimal levels. Okay, the only way to find out is to get a blood test. Okay, go to your physician assistant, go to your nurse, and ask them to find out when you get your blood test, to find out what your ferritin levels are at and where in terms of your iron is at. Okay, so that's very, very important. I also want you to keep in mind too that it's normal to deal with those roadblocks. Okay, as you're preparing for your races, it's normal. Okay, the world's best distance runners deal with frustrations and doubts. And expect that yourself. But what you're trying to do is not easy. Okay, most of you that watch these videos, you have specific time goals in mind. Maybe you're trying to lose weight. Maybe you're trying to qualify for the Olympic trials or the Olympic team. Maybe you're trying to earn a Boston Marathon qualifying time or run at another major marathon like New York City. And so you have to maintain your enthusiasm. Don't lose focus when you deal with these setbacks as you're training. Okay, if it was easy and it was a smooth process, nobody would really have issues along the way. But because middle distance running to long distance running success demands such a high amount of energy output, mental and physical stress, and how, it demands a lot of that. So it's how we handle that stress, which is really going to dictate how successful we are at middle distance running and long distance running. These longer races, they require an enormous amount of energy. It takes so much time and effort throughout the week to prepare for these races, as you all know. But mental resilience is just based on what I've dealt with over the years. I had to rely on that. When I got beat over the years, I was always thinking about the next race. I studied what the best middle distance runners and these long distance runners from Kenya and Ethiopia and other parts of the world, how they reacted to failure. And what I've learned from them is that they get over it very, very fast. They don't stress so much, okay? Like, I think Americans, not all of us, but a lot of Americans, we get down on ourselves. We beat ourselves up in terms of mentally about like when we miss a time goal or we don't reach our goals in our time frame, when in most oftentimes we want to do it in a matter of months, when in some cases it may take a couple decades to get there. Okay, the point is you get there. Okay, regardless how long it takes. And of course, most sane individuals won't pursue something as long as maybe some other athletes or other people in general that are seeking something. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be about running. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's getting out of debt. Maybe it's paying off a home rather than mortgaging a home. It's something, it's something that's motivating them. They know they're going to have to think outside the box, and they're going to have to try to de-stress. They're going to try to have to find something that's going to motivate them to keep going and to think outside the box, to motivate them to continue to pursue what they want despite having to have some setbacks along the way. Okay, so mental resilience plays a huge part in middle to long distance running. I can't stress it enough. I mean, over the years, that's what helped me overcome knowing that I didn't have a great deal of raw leg speed. I was always one of those guys where as a middle distance runner, I was wanting to be under 50 minutes for 400 meters. Even though I was training for the 2 mile and the 5K, I wanted to be like in the 48 to 49 minute range for 400 meters. And the best 400 I could drop was 53 minutes when I was in high school. So I was always working at trying to improve the raw leg speed, but I knew my strength was going to be in the longer distances. So mental resilience is also studying, okay, maybe I'm not as quick in the shorter races, but maybe there is another event that maybe I haven't tried yet that is going to be my best event. So don't get down on yourself when you have some bad races or bad workouts. It's part of the process. It's not seamless. It's not just perfect. You're not going to just be every single workout and every single race that you run is going to be a perfect flow state where you're just in that effortless mode. You know what I mean? When I ran my PR in the marathon, I was in a flow state. I can't explain. All I can say is it felt to me as if I was on a moderate tempo run up to around 21 miles. And yet I was running at 5:11 mile pace up through 21 miles in that race, in that marathon. And it was just a beautiful experience when you realize all of those years and months of training in bad weather, dealing with the doubt and stress over the years. It's a beautiful thing when you get to the point where everything is perfected and you're running in that flow state and outrunning runners that you really never envisioned being able to outrun. Okay, when I ran my PR, I was running up against guys that had PRs of 208 to 212. And in that morning, the morning prior to me setting my personal best in the marathon, my personal best for the marathon was 240. after the race, I ran 2:19. So I don't say that to gloat because I've been beaten several times over the years. I say it to empower you to think outside of yourself, to know that the power of the mind, your preparation, your mental resilience is going to dictate how far you go in this sport. Okay, it's not just about who's got the personal, who's run what. Okay, you could be a 3:20 marathoner right now, and the next morning you could be a 2:40 marathoner. Okay, drastic drops in time, but it's what you're doing mentally, rehearsing. It's your mental resilience, your ability to overcome setbacks, your persistent, your overall focus in how you deal with disappointments. If you maintain positivity, if you maintain persistence, if you don't give up when you deal with those challenges, that is going to take you to the next level. I promise you, that's what helped me. I trust me, I've been beaten several times. I've outrun some world-class athletes myself, but I had to be persistent, and I absolutely know from experience that mental resilience is what took me to that level. So I hope this video is helpful for all of you that are dealing with setbacks. And maybe you have, you're dealing with negative thoughts. You're dealing with times where you're really wondering what you're doing out there. Maybe you don't have teammates to train with. I've been there as well. Okay, if you don't have teammates to train with, you have to rely on your mental focus, your mental resilience. You have to believe in what you're doing. And I promise you, if you deal with that, if you deal with the setbacks in a positive manner, if you really rely on your mental power, your physical gifts, you're going to get to the next level in your training and racing. So I hope this video is helpful for all of you. Leave me a comment below if you have any other questions or concerns. I'll definitely respond. Check out the resources on RunDreamAchieve.com. I'm absolutely certain that those will help you get to the next level in your training and racing. And I'll talk to you all in the next video.